Okay, students. So we have discussed the lesson. I am sure you have understood all the processes that take place in a human body. So I am sure you have already answered the questions in your textbook. If not, you have to do it now and then you listen to the discussion. So I am going to start with the first question. Exercise. So from the diagram, you know what this system is. These are the questions. A part of the human digestive system is shown in figure. Answer the questions raised on it. Name the parts 1, 2, 3 and 4. In the food that reaches stomach, name one enzyme that could be present in it. Name a product of digestion that could be present in it. Third one, name 2 enzymes which are added to the food in the stomach. Proteins are digested partially in the stomach. Explain this using the changes that occur in proteins. Name the enzymes which are in the digestive juice or fluid secreted by the organ number 2 to duodenum. Name 2 secretions that influence lipid digestion. Name the organs from which they are secreted. Then the fifth one, gastritis is a common disease of the digestive system. State 3 reasons for this disease. And the last part, why protein digestive enzymes do not digest the wall of digestive system. So those are the questions. I'll start with the first one. So this is part of the digestive system. A part of the human digestive system is shown in figure. Answer the questions raised on it, and the first one is to label the parts starting from 1, 2, 3 and 4. So what is the first part? You can see here what is this first structure. From the buccal cavity through this tube only food enters the stomach. So that is the esophagus. So esophagus. Then what is the second part? Stomach is shown there. Then we have the duodenum. In here is the second part. What is that structure? The leaf-like organ, that is the pancreas. So pancreas is the second one. Then the third structure. Here you can see one of the large organs present in the digestive system, liver. Then what is the fourth one? Here you can see between the liver and the duodenum of the small intestine, there is this small sac-like structure. And what is that? That is the gallbladder. So we have labeled the parts: esophagus, pancreas, liver and the gallbladder. So you can see these are all different parts of the digestive system. With that, I will move on to the second one. In the food that reaches stomach, name one enzyme that could be present in it. So now here you have to think, students. The food is coming from the buccal cavity. Both the chemical and mechanical digestion start there. Esophagus, it's just the transfer of food from the buccal cavity to the stomach. So what is there in the buccal cavity? In saliva, there is salivary amylase. What does that do? That converts starch into maltose. That is the beginning of chemical digestion. So here, name one enzyme. So that will be salivary amylase. So here, students, you have to remember they are asking when the food reaches the stomach, not inside the stomach. So you know there are enzymes secreted in the stomach. You should not write those here. It is the enzyme that should come with the food. Then the B part. Name a product of digestion that could be present in it. So we discussed it. What will be the product of digestion? Maltose. So here the answer is going to be maltose. Then the next question. Name 2 enzymes which are added to the food in the stomach. What is the juice that is secreted there? The gastric juice. What does it contain? It has hydrochloric acid, pepsin and renin. So what do you write here? The enzyme. So there they have asked for 2 enzymes. So you have to write pepsin and renin. And here again you can remember, students, I told you all renin has to be spelled as R-E-N-N-I-N, because R-E-N-I-N is another hormone that is produced in the kidney. I am sure you can remember that. Protein, next one. Proteins are digested partially in the stomach. Explain this using the changes that occur in proteins. So here digested partially. Now you can remember both these enzymes are related to protein. What does pepsin do? Converts protein to polypeptides. So here protein is converted by pepsin to polypeptides. What is the other change? What does renin do? Renin coagulates protein. So in both these, we don't get amino acid. That is the end product of protein digestion. So here from these 2 reactions, you can say there is only partial digestion of protein taking place. So here we can say from the above 2 changes, it can be observed that protein undergoes partial digestion. So that is how you can write the answer. Or you can even write these in as sentences, in words also. But it's easier if we give it as an equation. With that, the next question. Name the enzymes which are in the digestive juice or fluid secreted by the organ number 2 to duodenum. So here they want you to identify the enzymes that are in the digestive juice that are secreted by organ number 2. So in here we have already identified organ number 2, that is the pancreas. What are the enzymes present? Trypsin, amylase and lipase. So here if we write down the answers, trypsin, amylase and lipase. So the 3 enzymes. Then name 2 secretions that influence lipid digestion. What are the 2 secretions? Now here from the liver produces bile, it's stored in the gallbladder, and from there bile is secreted into the small intestine. That is one that influences lipid digestion. So here one is bile. And what is the other one? The lipase is present in the digestive juice that is secreted by the pancreas. So what do we call that? The pancreatic juice. So it is the pancreatic juice. Then what is the next question? Name the organs from which they are secreted. So, first one, bile. Again students, when you are writing the answer, it's better to write the secretion again and give the organ. Otherwise, if you write it in a different order, it might not be correct. Name the organ. So, bile is stored in gallbladder, but they are secreted by liver. So, here you have to write liver. And pancreatic juice, from the name you know, pancreas. Is secreted by pancreas. So, you can write very short answers. Then the next question. Gastritis is a common disease of the digestive system. State 3 reasons for this disease. I am sure you know what gastritis is. What is it? When you don't have food inside the stomach, because of the additional contraction of the stomach wall, there is a pain generated inside the stomach. That gives you a feeling of hunger. And if it's there for a longer time, then it can develop into gastritis. So then what are the reasons for that? What we discussed, if you don't eat your meals on time. So not consuming meals on time is one reason. So here they have asked for 3 reasons. We will write the first one, the most common one, not having meals on time. What are the other reasons? If you eat too much of spicy or acidic food, that can lead to gastritis. So the second one, consumption of too much spicy and acidic food. There are 2 more reasons. What are they? Excessive smoking, excessive consumption of alcohol. You can either write them separately or you can write it together. Excessive smoking and alcohol consumption. So those are the reasons for gastritis. Then the next question. Why protein digestive enzymes do not digest the wall of the digestive system? So you know the lining of the digestive system that also has proteins, that is the wall of the digestive system. And there are protein digesting enzymes. Why don't they digest it? Due to the mucus layer present over the stomach lining and the intestinal lining. So here, why protein digestive enzymes do not digest the wall of the digestive system? So you have to say because the mucus layer protects the wall of the digestive system from protein digesting enzymes. Protein digesting enzymes. So that is the answer for this question. Then we'll move on to the next one. The second question. You can see there is another organ given to you. This is the lungs. So you know it's part of the respiratory system. an organ which is related to the respiratory process and its internal structure is shown in the figures. So, two figures. Answer the following questions. Name the parts A, B, C and D. What is the respiratory surface shown in the diagram? So, here you can identify the surface. Write two adaptations of that respiratory surface for the efficient gas exchange. What are the differences in blood composition of the vessels P and Q? To which chambers does the blood flow through P? Then the sixth one, what is the illness which shows symptom swelling of B, C parts due to bacteria or virus infection? Then the B part, choose the correct answer. What is the respiratory product produced only in animals? Then the answers are energy, carbon dioxide, ethyl alcohol and lactic acid. Second one, which of the following is not produced using anaerobic respiration? Alcohol, biogas, bread and yogurt. So those are the questions. I will start with the first one. So the first question, you can see the diagram here clearly. You know what this is. This is part of the lungs and here they have shown the alveoli with the capillaries around it. An organ which is related to the respiratory process and its internal structure is shown in the figures. So that is what we discuss now. Answer the following questions. The first one, name the parts A, B, C and D. So here you can see what is part A. What is this tube? It is the trachea. Trachea. And what is B? You can see from the trachea, it is the bronchus. Bronchus. Then what do we have as part C? Here you can see from the bronchus, the branches are the bronchioles. So here we have the bronchioles. And part D, what is part D? At the end of the bronchioles, you can see the alveolar sacs. These are the alveolar sacs. Here they have shown it larger there. So this is the alveoli. So those are the parts of this diagram A, B, C and D. Trachea, bronchus, bronchiole and the alveoli. I am sure you have marked it correctly. So now I will move on to the next one. What is the respiratory surface shown in the diagram? So what is this? We have already labeled it. It is the alveoli or alveolar wall. So here we can say alveolar wall or even alveoli. Write two adaptations of that respiratory surface for the efficient gas exchange. So, efficient gas exchange. Now, to answer this question, I am sure you can remember the different adaptations. If you can't, you can just look at this picture. Why are there small, many, large number of sacs? In order to increase the surface area. Then you can see there are a lot of capillaries, blood vessels around it. So it's highly vascularized. In addition to that, what you can't see there? The thin alveolar wall so that gases can diffuse easily and also the surface will be moist. So you can write any two adaptations. So I will write one, highly vascularized, or you can even say presence of a large number of capillary network around the alveolar surface. So we need to write two adaptations. I mentioned a few. One I have written highly vascularized, that you can see in the diagram. The next one I'll say moist alveolar surface. that you can't see in the diagram, but you know that it is there. So here they have not specified that you can see in the diagram. Write 2 adaptations of the respiratory surface for the efficient gas exchange. So you can write any 2. I am sure you were able to write them correctly. So then, what are the differences in blood composition of the vessels P and Q? So from the diagram, from the color itself, I am sure you know what the difference is. P is red color. Why? Because it's oxygenated blood. What is Q? It's blue color to denote its deoxygenated blood. So what are the differences? So if we say, what I will do is, I will write it as blood in P and Q. So in 1, here it is blood P is oxygenated. What is Q? Deoxygenated. So that means, what is the main difference, or what are the main differences? In P, there is more oxygen concentration. Here there is less oxygen. What is the other difference? In P, there is very less carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide. And in Q, there is more carbon dioxide. So those are the differences. Either you can write it like this, in a table kind of form, or you can write it in sentence form. So you know blood P, just to confirm, I will show it to you again. Here you can see blood P is red color, so that is the pulmonary vein that takes the oxygenated blood. So here Q is related to the pulmonary artery that brings the deoxygenated blood. So we have written the correct answers. Here you can see that. I am sure you were able to write that as well. With that, I will move on to the next one. To which chamber does the blood flow through P? So already I told you all, it is the pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein takes the blood to the left atrium, so that it can be pumped into the left ventricle and then to the parts of the body. So to which chamber does the blood flow through P? It is to left atrium. Next one. What is the illness which shows symptom swelling of B, C parts due to bacteria or virus infection? What is B? The bronchus, and C is the bronchioles. So if they are infected and inflamed by virus or bacteria, what do we call it? Bronchitis. Very easy to remember. So that is bronchitis. That is the disease. With that, I'll move on to the next one. So the next one, choose the correct answer. So you know this has to be an MCQ type question. What is the respiratory product produced only in animals? You know the 2 processes of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic. So if we look at the products, energy, it's produced in all as well as in plants and animals. Then we have the CO2 that is produced in aerobic respiration in animals and plants as well as during ethyl alcohol fermentation or alcohol fermentation. So that is carbon dioxide. Then we have ethyl alcohol that's produced only in plants during alcohol fermentation. Here the question is only in animals. So if you look at the fourth answer, lactic acid, that is lactic acid formation or fermentation when there is anaerobic respiration taking place in animals. So that is the answer. What is the respiratory product produced only in animals? It is lactic acid. Then we have the next question. Which of the following is not produced using anaerobic respiration? So we have to check whether there is anaerobic respiration taking place or not. So if we look at the answers here. The first one, alcohol. Where does it happen? Alcohol fermentation. So that is obviously anaerobic respiration. That is carried out by yeast. Then what is the second process? Biogas production. What is biogas? It is methane. What is the microorganism that is related to it? It is methanococcus. And methanococcus is anaerobic bacteria. So that is also it is an anaerobic process. Now take the third one, bread. What happens there? There also we use yeast. Again it is anaerobic. So that is the production of bread. Then we have the fourth answer, yogurt. Here there should be an S. Yogurt is Y-O-G-H-U-R-T. So the production of yogurt. What is the microorganism involved there? That is lactobacillus. Now this lactobacillus has a special feature. The lactobacillus in yogurt production, there is the involvement of lactobacillus, and this has a special feature. It can survive in aerobic and anaerobic conditions. So this is a special thing that you have to remember. So if we take the question, which of the following is not produced using anaerobic respiration? The first three, alcohol, biogas and bread, they are for sure they involve anaerobic process. But if we take the production of yogurt, the lactobacillus can live in both aerobic as well as anaerobic conditions. So out of the answers given here, the most suitable one will be yogurt. So we will take that as the answer. I am sure you can understand that, students. So although yogurt involves lactobacillus that can live in anaerobic conditions, it can also live in aerobic condition. So which of the following is not produced using anaerobic respiration? We have to select the answer as yogurt. With that, I will move on to the next question. The third question. A figure of the structural and functional unit of the kidney is shown below. So here you can see structural and functional unit. What is this unit called? Name the parts A, B, C, D and E. Briefly explain the functions that occur in D. Name two substances absorbed into blood capillaries from the fluid that flows through tube A. A urine test of a person revealed that urine had glucose in it. What is the disease that person is having? What are the reasons for it? So I am sure you have already answered these questions. Now we'll check them. So a figure of the structural and functional unit of the kidney. So here they have mentioned structural and functional unit. What is this unit called? No confusions, it is the nephron. Name the parts A, B, C, D, E. So the first part A. Here we have A, that is pointing to this part. What is this? The proximal convoluted tubule. So proximal convoluted tubule. Then we have structure. What is this structure B? That is the afferent arteriole. From the renal artery, the afferent arteriole that supplies blood to the glomerulus. Afferent arteriole. Then what do we have? We have labeled A and B, then we have C here. The vessel that takes blood away from the kidneys. I will write that here, that is the renal vein. Always the name renal is related to kidneys. Artery brings the blood, renal vein takes away the blood. Then we have C, D. D you know is glomerulus. And lastly, we need to find E. E is here, it is the collecting duct. So, did you get everything correctly? I am sure you all did. Yes. With that, the next one. Briefly explain the function that occur in D. So, for the ease of identifying the parts, we have the picture here. What is D? It is glomerulus. What is the function or what is the process? Ultrafiltration. But here they have said briefly explain. So, how will you explain it? It has to be brief. When blood flows into the capillaries, that is the glomerulus, due to the high pressure inside there, through the glomerular wall and the inner wall of the Bowman's capsule, that is this part here you can see is the Bowman's capsule, components from blood get filtered into the Bowman's capsule, and that is known as the glomerular filtrate, and in that there can't be blood cells or plasma proteins. So that is the process of ultrafiltration. So that is what you have to write here. So we can say due to the high pressure generated in the glomerulus, components of blood get filtered through the glomerulus and the inner wall of the Bowman's capsule. So that is the process taking place there. So here I will just write the name as ultrafiltration. So that is the process that we have explained. Then the next question or the next part. Name two substances absorbed into blood capillaries from the fluid that flows through tube A. So here, if we look at the tube A, we have identified it as proximal convoluted tubule. So the glomerular filtrate flows down the descending limb. And then what are the substances reabsorbed? 90 to 95% of water, 100% glucose, some minerals, some urea and vitamins. So you can write any two substances. I will write water and glucose. Here you don't have to specify the amounts because they have just asked two substances absorbed into blood capillaries. Then the next one. A urine test of a person revealed that urine had glucose in it. So urine had glucose in it. What is the disease that person is having? What are the reasons for it? So here I said 100% glucose has to be reabsorbed. If it doesn't get reabsorbed, if it is present in urine, what do we call that disease? Diabetes. Yes, you are correct. Diabetes. And what are the causes of diabetes? You know that the pancreas, beta cells of islets of Langerhans secrete insulin. If there are no beta cells, then insulin cannot be secreted. That could be one reason. Otherwise, the amount of insulin secreted is not enough or insulin is not secreted at all. That is another reason. So here, in order to write the reasons, what are the reasons? So then we can say absence of beta cells. Cells in islets of Langerhans of pancreas, or we can say no insulin production. Or insufficient insulin production. So those are the reasons for diabetes. I am sure you were able to answer that as well. So with that, I will move on to the next one. So the fourth question. Following is a diagram of a model of the human blood circulatory system. So here they have given it as a model. Answer the following questions regarding that. Name the chambers A to D. Name the following blood vessels E, F, G and H. In which form part of glucose is stored in liver. Write the path of a glucose molecule in blood from the liver to the kidney using given letters. So you have to use the letters. How many times does the glucose molecule pass through the heart when transporting to the liver? Write two differences in blood at E and F. So those are the questions. Now we will check the answers. So the first one. Following is a diagram of a model of the human blood circulatory system. Answer the following questions regarding that. Name the chambers A to D. So here A, B, C and D. I am sure you know that always you have to think the heart is on you. So this side is left, this side is right. So if we label the chambers, A is on the right side. So it is the right atrium because it's on top. Then we have B, the left side, left atrium. Then the chambers below are the ventricles. So already you know C is right ventricle and D is left ventricle. You can never go wrong in this as long as you get the left and right correctly. Then we have name the following blood vessels. So here the letters are given to you. What is E? E is here. You can see A, right atrium, C, right ventricle. From there, it is the pulmonary artery that takes blood to the lungs. So here you all know there are left and right pulmonary arteries. Here we can directly write it as pulmonary artery because this is the diagrammatic representation. Then what is F? So from here it goes to lungs, then it comes through G, back to B, then to D, and from D it is being pumped to the rest of the body. So what is that? It is the aorta. So F is the aorta. Then we have G. Here is G. G is the one that brings the oxygenated blood back. So what is that? That is the pulmonary vein. Then we have H. Can you all find H in the diagram? It's here. So that is a special blood vessel. I have told you all that before. From the intestine to the liver. So from one organ to another organ, it takes the digested end products from the intestine to the liver, especially glucose. What is that? It is the hepatic portal vein. Hepatic portal vein. So hepatic relates to liver. Portal, you can just remember it as it transports the digested food from intestine to liver. So hepatic portal vein. With that, I will move on to the next one. In which form part of glucose is stored in liver? So they want you to identify what form glucose is stored inside the liver. I am sure you can remember when there is high amount of glucose in blood, what happens to it? Inside the liver, it gets converted to glycogen. Yes, you are right. So, it has to be glycogen. Write the path of a glucose molecule in blood from the liver to the kidney. So, here we have to write the path of glucose from liver to the kidney using given letters. So, if we take the liver, from the liver, the vessel that takes blood out, so I will include liver as well. It goes into I. From I, it is the inferior vena cava, that is J. Then from J, where does it go? It goes into chamber A. Then from chamber A, it goes into chamber C. Then from C, where does it go? It goes into E. And from E, it actually goes into the lungs. But here they have said using the letters, but still I will just include that in brackets because it goes to the lungs and then from there it comes into G. Then from G, what happens? B and D. So again to B. Then from there it goes into D. Then after that, where does it go? From D, it goes into the aorta F. and we have to take it to the kidney. So here the F continues and M is the renal artery that gives blood to kidneys. So M and then the kidneys. So that is the path. We will check it again. From liver to I, then to J, then to A and C, I, J, A, C. Then from there to E, there it goes to lungs, and G is the pulmonary vein. After that, it has to be B and D the chambers, left side, and then F, aorta, and renal artery, M. Finally, it reaches kidney. So, I am sure you got this path correct. The next one. How many times does the glucose molecule pass through the heart when transporting to the liver? I am sure you know the answer, but just to check if you can remember, from J it came to A and C. Then from there it went to the lungs, and again from G it came back to B and D. So it's 2 times. So the question is how many times? So it's 2 times. Write 2 differences in blood at E and F. What is E? This. What is F? It's aorta. So here just to write what it is, I'll just say E is pulmonary artery. And F you can see is aorta. You don't have to write this again, it's just that you have to write the difference. So blood E and blood F. If I again write it as a table-like difference in E and F. So E has deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood. And F carries oxygenated blood. So they have asked write 2 differences because of this. What are the 2 main differences? There is less oxygen here, more oxygen there. So if we write that, oxygen concentration is low. Here it is high. And the other difference, carbon dioxide concentration is high here and it is low there. So those are the 2 main differences. So if you write these 2, then it's correct. So oxygen concentration is low, there it's high. Carbon dioxide concentration is high here and it is low there. So those are the 2 differences between the blood in E and F. So with that, the next question. The 5th one. Name the part of the brain which involves in the following functions. A. Higher mental cognitive activities. B. Controlling the heartbeat rate. C. Controlling swallowing. And D. Controlling functions of the voluntary muscles. Name the neurons which involve in the peripheral nervous system. And what is the subsystem of the autonomic nervous system that functions mainly in an emergency? So I am sure you have answered these questions. So now we will discuss the answers. Name the part of brain which involves in the following functions. So the first one, higher mental cognitive activities. You know the part. It is the cerebrum of the brain. So here the answer is cerebrum. Controlling the heartbeat rate. That is an involuntary function. It is controlled by medulla oblongata. So medulla oblongata. Controlling swallowing. Again an involuntary function. So it is medulla oblongata. Then the last one, controlling functions of the voluntary muscles. Here you have to think, students. The cerebrum controls the voluntary muscle contraction. Why? That is the part that thinks and does things. So that is one part that is involved. The other part is the cerebellum. That also controls the voluntary muscle activities. So here I will write both. Controlling functions of the voluntary muscles. Cerebrum controls voluntary muscle contraction. And cerebellum controls voluntary muscle activities. So here they have just asked functions of the voluntary muscles. So you can write both. With that, I will move on to the next one. Name the neurons which involve in the peripheral nervous system. So here, students, you can remember we did not discuss the structure of the peripheral nervous system, but I am sure you can remember the reflex arc. So here, if it was peripheral nervous system again, the three neurons, mainly the sensory neuron, motor neuron and the interneuron, but you can remember interneuron is present inside the spinal cord. So there, if they say peripheral nervous system, it has to be the neuron that brings the information from sensory organs and the information to the effector. So it has to be sensory and motor neurons. But if the question had been instead of this, if they have asked us to write the neurons of the reflex arc, then of course we can write the three neurons that are involved. The sensory neuron, then the motor neuron, and intermediate neuron. Those are the three types of neurons present in the nervous system. Then what is the subsystem of the autonomic nervous system that functions mainly in an emergency? So the autonomous nervous system has two parts, the sympathetic and parasympathetic. What does the sympathetic do? Yes, it prepares your body for an emergency. Then what does the parasympathetic do? It calms your body down or brings it back to normal after the emergency is over. So what is the answer for this? It is the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system. So with that, students, I have finished all the questions in your textbook. I am sure you were also able to write all the correct answers. In case you couldn't do it, now you know how to write answers and you know the correct answers for all the questions. So, but is that enough? No. We have to practice more questions. So, now I will move on to some extra questions. Extra question 1. Select the correct answer. So, you all know these are MCQ questions. First one, what is the product of activity of salivary amylase on starch? So, you know there are two amylase. One is the salivary, the other one is the amylase inside the intestine. So, here anyway both of them do the same activity, convert starch to maltose. So, what is the product of activity of salivary amylase? Sucrose, maltose, lactose, galactose. What is the correct answer? Maltose. These are all other types of carbohydrates. What is the main acid present in gastric juice? So, you know the acid, hydrochloric acid. Lactic acid, acetic acid, citric acid, those are not there. You know that lactic acid is used during lactic acid fermentation and acetic acid is present in vinegar. Citric acid is present in juices of citrus fruits like lime, orange, those types of fruits. So, the correct one is hydrochloric acid. Then the next question. Enzyme present in pancreatic juice. The juice that is produced and secreted into the small intestine by the pancreas. What are the substances? Maltase, lactase, amylase, peptidase. Now here maltase, lactase and peptidase, those are all present in the intestinal juice. Only amylase is present in the pancreatic juice. So that's the answer. Main product of anaerobic respiration of animals. So you know what respiration is, the cellular respiration. Aerobic needs oxygen, anaerobic without the use of oxygen. Is it ascorbic acid? No. That is present in vitamin C. Again lactic acid? Yes. Anaerobic respiration of animals. Ethyl alcohol? That is also anaerobic respiration but in plants. So, methyl alcohol, that is another type of alcohol. Now, here it says animals. So, the answer has to be lactic acid. Then the next one. A disease of the respiratory system caused by bacteria. So, two things that you have to observe. Respiratory system and it has to be by bacteria. Asbestosis, yes, it's related to the respiratory system but it's caused by asbestos dust. So, that's not the correct one. Then asthma, that is also related to respiratory system. What are the causes? That is due to either sawdust, pollens or some kind of dusty particles that can cause allergy. So, that is not it. Then lung cancer, again respiratory system, but what causes lung cancer? Chemicals and substances which are known as carcinogens, which can induce cancer, even radiations. So, that is again not due to bacteria. Then the fourth one, tuberculosis, what we call as TB. Yes, that is a disease related to the respiratory system and it is caused by bacteria. So, that is the answer. Then the sixth question. The main form of nitrogenous excretory material of man. You know there are different excretory organs and excretory products. And what are the main nitrogenous excretory material? Urea, uric acid. So, feces, that is not an excretory product. Sweat, yes, but it is not the main excretory form. Sweat also has urea, but it is not the main excretory form. exhaled air doesn't have urea. Urine, yes, that is the main form of nitrogenous excretory material. So with that, we will move on to the next one. So here also students, as I always say, as you see the question, you can pause the video, you can answer the question, then you can listen to the discussion. So quickly you can answer these two questions as well. Structural and functional unit of the kidney is. So both are the same, structural and functional. What is it? Nephrons. Pelvis, this is a part where the urine collects and enters the ureter. Then the capsule. Capsule is the outer cover of the kidney. Pyramid, yes, we have the pyramid shapes there. That is where you get the nephrons, part of the nephron. And nephron, that is the structural and functional unit of kidney. Then the eighth one, technology of crushing kidney stones by laser, that we have discussed previously also. What is that technique called? Lithotripsy. Let's look at the answers. Laparoscopy. Now, laparoscopy is a technique where they perform surgeries without putting a large incision, especially in the abdominal or pelvis area. So, they put small holes, through that they insert all the instruments needed for the surgery, and with the help of a light, they can perform the surgery. But it doesn't involve laser or crushing of stones. Then lithotripsy, that is the answer. Ultrasound scanning. We use sound, ultrasound, but that is to observe either function of the heart or the development of a fetus in the mother's womb. So those are the uses of ultrasound scan. Then laparotomy. That is also similar to laparoscopy. Without cutting open the abdomen, they put small holes and do a surgery. So similar techniques, and I am sure you can remember the type of light rays that is used there and the special fiber we use for laparoscopy. What is that? It is the optic fibers. So here the answer is lithotripsy. So you know the other techniques as well. With that, I will move on to the next one. An example of spinal reflex is. So here we have different reflex actions. You can remember the two types, students. What are the reflex actions? The spinal reflex and the cranial reflexes. What is the difference? The spinal has to be very, very quick. Where you can't think and do, it has to be immediate, so that there is no harm done to your body. Like if you keep your foot on a thorn, or if you touch a very hot object, immediately you have to respond. Whereas like sneezing, vomiting or coughing, those are all related to, even coughing and sneezing you can't control, but those are cranial reflexes, comparatively slow. So here, an example of spinal reflex is drawing the leg away immediately when you step on a thorn. That is what we discussed. Then secretion of saliva when you see tasty food, obviously cranial reflex. Doesn't have to be immediate. Blinking of eyelids, that is also cranial. Sneeze when dust particles enter the nasal cavity, that is also cranial reflex. So here the most suitable one or the correct answer is the drawing the legs away immediately when you step on a thorn. Then the next question. A hormone secreted by the pituitary gland. So you know that is part of the endocrine gland. You know the endocrine glands and their hormones that are secreted by them. Calcitonin. What is the gland? the thyroid gland. Then thyroxine, that is also by thyroid gland. Growth hormone, that is by pituitary. And adrenaline, from the name you know, it's the adrenal gland. So here the answer is growth hormone. So I'm sure you were able to answer those questions. With that, extra question 2. What is digestion of food? That is the first process. What is digestion of food? The breaking down of complex organic molecules into simple forms that can be absorbed by the body. So how can we write the answer? Convert, or we can say the process by which complex organic compounds are converted to simple substances that can be absorbed by the body. So, did you all write this answer? Yes. The process by which complex organic compounds are converted to simple substances that can be absorbed by the body. So, that's for the first question. Then, the second one. What is the second one? What are the two processes of food digestion? I am sure you know the answer. What are they? The mechanical digestion and the chemical digestion. So here we have mechanical digestion and chemical Then the next one. What are the nutrients that can be used by the body without any digestion? What are the substances? Glucose, galactose, fructose, vitamins, minerals and some drugs. Some minerals and some drugs. So, if we write the answers down. Here they say what are the nutrients. So, you can write all the nutrients. Glucose, fructose, galactose. What are these three? They are the monosaccharides. And then we have some minerals, some vitamins, and also some drugs, or drugs we can say. So those are the substances that can be absorbed directly by the body without any digestion process. Then I will move on to the next one. Extra question 3. So diagram of the human digestive system is given below. Label the parts. So here you can see, students, the different parts of the human digestive system are given to you. So can you identify all the parts? So what is A? It is the salivary gland. So here it is the salivary gland. Then after that, what do you have? B. Can you see the structure B there? It is the small part that prevents food from entering the respiratory tract. What is that called? Epiglottis. So it is the epiglottis. Then what do we have? C, that is esophagus. What is D here? The structure that separates the thoracic cavity and the abdominal cavity, the diaphragm. Then E, this is E, the sac-like stomach. Then we have F. Here you can see the leaf-like structure, that is the pancreas. Then we have G, the folded long tube-like structure, small intestine. So I am sure you will be also able to identify using all these characteristics. Then we have H, that is where feces collects, that is the rectum. Then we have I. I is the anus through which the feces is given out or released from the body. So it is the anus. Then we have structure J here, the undeveloped part that is present in our digestive system. What is that? It is the appendix. Then what do we have? K, the beginning part of the large intestine, cecum. L, that is the large intestine. Then we have M, the small sac-like structure which secretes bile, that is the gallbladder. So we have the gallbladder there. Then the last two parts, N is this large organ, that is the liver, and O is the beginning of the digestive system, that is the buccal cavity. So N is liver and O is buccal cavity. So we have labeled all the parts. A, salivary gland, B, epiglottis, C, esophagus, D, diaphragm, E, stomach, F, pancreas, then small intestine and rectum, that is G and H, I is anus, then J, appendix, K, cecum, L is large intestine, M is the gallbladder, then you have N, that is the liver, and here we have O, that is the buccal cavity. So those are the parts of the digestive system. I am sure you were able to label all these correctly. Did you do it? Yes. So we will move on to the next one. Extra question 4. What are the substances absorbed in the stomach? You know, there also digestion takes place, not all the substances, but substances that can be directly absorbed. Some of it get absorbed here. What are they? Water, glucose and some drugs. So here the answer has to be water, glucose and some drugs. So those are the things that can be absorbed in the stomach. But the main absorption, you know, takes place in the small intestines. Then what is chyme? What is chyme? Bolus comes from the buccal cavity through the esophagus into the stomach. There what happens? The bolus is broken down by the movement of the stomach muscles or the stomach wall and gets broken down, mixed well, and then the chyme is formed. So here, what is chyme? The product formed in the stomach by breaking and mixing the bolus well. So the product formed in the stomach by breaking and mixing the bolus well, we can even say by the stomach wall. So the breaking and mixing is done by the peristalsis that occurs by the stomach wall, the muscles of the stomach wall. You can remember that. Then the next one. What are the end products of digestion in the small intestine? I am sure you can all write that correctly. What are they? Can you all tell me one by one? We will start with the end products of carbohydrates. Glucose, fructose, galactose. Then when proteins digest, it is the amino acids. Amino acids. And what are the end products of lipids? Fatty acid and glycerol. So we have fatty acid and glycerol. So what are the end products of digestion in the small intestine? We have glucose, fructose, galactose, amino acids, fatty acid and glycerols. With that, I will move on to the next one. What are the symptoms of gastritis? You know what gastritis is? When you don't eat food properly, then there is pain caused in the stomach due to the contraction of the stomach. So that leads to gastritis. What happens there? Regurgitation of acid to the mouth. You can feel the acid coming up. So that is one symptom. Regurgitation of acid to the mouth. What else? The symptoms. You get the pain in the stomach. Pain in the stomach. So those are the symptoms of gastritis. So regurgitation of acid to the mouth, pain in the stomach, and there is one more. What is it? You get a burning sensation. So that is the other symptom. Burning sensation. Then we have the next question. What is that? What are the reasons for gastritis? What are the reasons? If you don't eat on time, if you skip meals, then you can get gastritis. So that is one reason, skipping meals. What is the other one? You know that. Consumption of acidic or spicy food. Consumption of a lot of acidic and spicy food. Are these two the only reasons? No. Then what is it? Excessive smoking and alcohol consumption. So that is also a reason for gastritis. Excessive smoking and alcohol consumption. Okay. So, in addition to these, there is one more important factor. What is that? Mental stress. That also can cause gastritis. So, that is another cause. Mental stress. So, the reasons for gastritis are skipping meals, consumption of a lot of acidic and spicy food, excessive smoking and alcohol consumption, and also mental stress. So, with that, I will move on to the next one. Extra question 6. What are the reasons for constipation? Again, that is related to the digestive system. Why do you get constipated? Because you don't drink enough water. So, not enough consumption of water. What are the other reasons? I am sure you can quickly write down all the reasons. So, one is not enough consumption of water. What else? When you postpone defecation, that is, you don't pass motion even if you get the feeling, that also leads to constipation. So, postponing defecation. What else? So, not enough consumption of water, postponing defecation. What else causes constipation? Again, smoking and alcohol causes constipation. And some drugs also cause constipation. So, consumption of alcohol, smoking, and some drugs. So, for the reasons of constipation, we have written not enough consumption of water, postponing defecation, consumption of alcohol and smoking, and also some drugs. In addition to that, can you remember another factor? The dietary fibers, they are very useful in removal of feces. So, if you consume less dietary fibers, then also you can get constipated. So, consumption of food with low dietary fibers, that also can lead to constipation. So, these are the reasons. Then we'll move on to the next question. What causes diarrhea? I am sure you know the causes. What are they? It can be a virus, a bacteria, or a parasite. So, here it can be a virus, bacteria, or parasite. So, those are the causes of diarrhea. With that, I will move on to the next question. What preventive measures can be taken to avoid typhoid and diarrhea? Both are contagious diseases and they usually spread through the mouth. The microorganism enter through the mouth either by infected food or other sources. So, what are the preventive measures that can be taken to avoid diarrhea and typhoid? One thing, you should drink boiled water. So, I will write the measures one by one. Drink boiled water. Then what is the next one? Something that always carries these microorganisms? The flies. Flies can contaminate food. So what can we do to prevent flies? Remove breeding sites of flies. Remove breeding sites of flies. Then what else? Now flies can contaminate food that are open to air. So don't eat food from places where the food is exposed. So do not eat food sold in open places. What else? What is the other way by which diarrhea and typhoid pathogens can come to your body? Through common latrines. So what type of latrines can prevent that? Where they have sealed water systems. So use sealed, or we can say use water sealed latrines. Similarly, what should you do after you use the toilet? You have to wash your hands carefully or thoroughly with soap and water. So, wash your hands thoroughly with soap and water after using the toilet. So these are the ways of preventing or avoiding typhoid and diarrhea. You can, if you know any other methods that are really relevant to this, you can also include those. With that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 8. What are the adaptations of the small intestine to increase its efficiency of absorption? So here, adaptations of the small intestine to increase efficiency of absorption. I am sure you can remember all the adaptations. To start with, we can say it's a very long tubular structure. Then what is there? There are circular foldings in the inner wall. And in the lining of the inner wall, there are villi. And the epithelium of villi forms the microvilli. So those are all different adaptations. I will start writing them and then we will discuss. So one you can say long tube, then we can say circular foldings, then the next one, presence of villi in the wall of intestines. What else? Microvilli present in the lining of villi. What else? The villi has a very thin lining. lining of villi is thin. Then one more adaptation. What is it? There are lot of capillaries. The villi are highly vascularized so that the digested food can be absorbed very efficiently. So, highly vascularized villi. So, those are the adaptations of the small intestine to increase its efficiency of absorption. I am sure you were able to write all this. Just check whether I have left out anything. It is a long tube-like structure. Here I have written all the answers very short. You can write them in a detailed form. Circular foldings are present. Presence of villi in the wall of intestines. Microvilli present in the lining of villi. Then lining of villi is very thin and they are highly vascularized. So with that, we move on to the next question. What are the 3 stages of respiration? You know the 3 stages. What are they? First is the gas exchange between the external environment and the lungs. So, gas exchange between the external environment and lungs. Then what is the second stage? The gas exchange in the alveoli, correct. Gas exchange in the alveoli. And finally what happens? The cellular respiration. Cellular respiration. So those are the 3 stages of respiration. The 3 stages of respiration: gas exchange between the external environment and lungs, gas exchange in the alveoli, and cellular respiration. With that, I will move on to the next one. What changes take place when inhaled air passes through the nasal cavity? What are the changes? It gets moisturized. It gets converted to the body temperature. And what else? External particles like dust, pathogens, those are all removed from the inhaled air. So those are the changes that take place. Moisturized, then it is converted to body temperature, and what happens? Removal of particles like dust from inhaled air. Then the next question. So here you can see the diagram. A diagram of the human respiratory system is given below. Label the parts. I am sure you are very familiar with this diagram. Can you all label the parts quickly first? Yes. If you have done it, you can check the answers. What is this part? it is the pharynx. Pharynx. Then part B, that is the trachea. Then we have C, this bone. It is called the breastbone or the sternum. Here we will write it as sternum. Sternum. Then D. D here you can see it is the bronchus, the branch from the trachea, bronchus. Bronchus. Then E. E here you can see it is the rib or rib bone. You can write it as ribs or rib bone because it points to 1. Then F. Those are these branches. What are they? The bronchioles. Then G. What is this G? It is the diaphragm. H. Here you can see H. What is that part? Pharynx is common to both the digestive and the respiratory system. Then we have the larynx. That is the larynx. Then I. I is here. This is the lower chamber. What is that? It is the buccal cavity. Buccal cavity. This is part of the digestive system. And here we have from the nose the nasal cavity. The nasal cavity. So I hope you got everything correct, because there's no way you can confuse these parts, right? You know the parts of the respiratory system. Okay. So with that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 10. What are the adaptations of the respiratory surfaces for efficient gas exchange? So here it is the respiratory surfaces. What is the respiratory surface? It is the alveoli or the alveolar surface. So what are the adaptations? The wall of alveoli are very, very thin. So that is the first one we can write. Very thin wall of alveoli. Then what else? In order to have a larger surface area, what is there? There are large number of alveolar sacs. So the second one we can say large number of alveolar sacs are present. Then what else? What are the other requirements for efficient gas exchange? The alveolar surface has to be moist. So here we can say moist alveolar surface. How does this become moist? By the mucus secreted. Then what else? For the gas exchange to take place, there should be lot of blood supply. So capillary network, or we can say network of capillaries around alveoli, or you can say highly vascularized. So either network of capillaries around alveoli, or you can say highly vascularized alveoli. So those are the adaptations of respiratory surfaces for efficient gas exchange. Then the next one, what is cellular respiration? What is cellular respiration? The third stage of respiration, and in that what happens? The simple organic substances like glucose is reacted or burnt with oxygen in order to produce energy for the function of the body. So here a process, we can say process by which simple organic substances are metabolized to produce energy for the functioning of the body. So for the different biological activities, the functions of the cells, different organs and the tissues, we need energy. So that is why cellular respiration takes place. I am sure you were able to answer those. So next question, extra question 11. Write the word equations for the following. So the first one, anaerobic respiration taking place in plant cells. So here you have to see anaerobic respiration and plant cells. So what is the substrate? It is glucose. Glucose. We don't have to write oxygen because it is anaerobic. Then what are the products? Carbon dioxide, oxide plus ethyl alcohol and energy. Now because ethyl alcohol is produced only, we call it alcohol fermentation. So anaerobic respiration taking place in plant cells, glucose is converted to carbon dioxide, ethyl alcohol and energy is released. Then the next one, anaerobic respiration taking place in animal cells. That also you all know. So it is glucose getting converted to lactic acid and energy will be released. So that is why this is known as lactic acid fermentation. Glucose being converted to lactic acid and energy. Did you all get that correctly? I am sure you did. So with that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 12. What is the structural and functional unit of kidneys? What is it? The nephron. What are the three main processes of urine formation in the kidney? What are the three main processes? First one is ultrafiltration, Then the second one is selective reabsorption. And finally, what happens? The secretion. So, the three main processes of urine formation, ultrafiltration, selective reabsorption and secretion. Did you get it correctly? Yes. So, then the next question. Extra question 30. What substances are filtered into the glomerular filtrate? You all can remember the substances. What are those? Water, glucose, amino acids, vitamins, drugs, various ions, hormones and urea are filtered into the glomerular filtrate. So you have to remember those substances. What substances are filtered into the glomerular filtrate? Water, glucose, amino acids, vitamins, some salts, or we can say various ions, water, glucose, amino acids, vitamins, various ions, drugs. Then the important one, urea. All these are filtered into the glomerular filtrate. Let me check whether I have written everything. Water, glucose, amino acids, vitamins, various ions, drugs, urea, and also hormones. So these are the substances that are filtered into the glomerular filtrate. So then I will move on to the second question. What substances are not filtered into the glomerular filtrate? That's easy to remember. What are the substances? Plasma protein and blood cells. So plasma protein, and blood cells. So those two substances are not filtered into the glomerular filtrate. Then we have the next question. What is the volume of glomerular filtrate? What is the volume of glomerular filtrate of a healthy adult? Always it is for healthy people. That is the standard value. So that's why they say healthy adult. In small children also it varies. So in a healthy adult, per minute 120 centimeter cubes of glomerular filtrate is filtered or produced. So what is the volume of glomerular filtrate of a healthy adult? 120 centimeter cube per minute. Then the last question here. What is the difference between the urine of a healthy person and a person with diabetes? You know that very well. What is the difference? In a healthy person, in the urine there will be no glucose because 100% of glucose will be reabsorbed during the reabsorption process, selective reabsorption process. Whereas in the urine of a diabetic patient, there can be glucose or there will be glucose. So that is the difference between the urine of a healthy person. So I will write it short. Healthy person, no glucose in urine. So in a healthy person, there will be no glucose in urine. But a diabetic patient, glucose is present in urine. So that is the difference. What is the difference between the urine of a healthy person and a person with diabetes? In a healthy person's urine, there is no glucose. But in the urine of a diabetic patient, glucose is present. So that is the difference. You can write this as a paragraph form, students, or you can write it as point form. As long as you write the correct answer, then it is fine. So I am sure you were able to answer all these questions. So with that, I will move on to the next one. Extra question 14. Fill in the following table related to the different excretory materials and organs through which the excretory materials are excreted. So you know the three different organs. the excretory materials and the form of excretion. What can we write first? We can write water, urea, uric acid and salt. The excretory organ will be kidney and the form will be urine. The same way, if we take water, urea, uric acid and sodium chloride, that is from the skin in the form of sweat. And the third one, carbon dioxide and water vapor. What is that? That is through the lungs in the form of exhaled air. So here students, it's not a must to write in any order, but these three have to be correct. So if you write water, urea, uric acid, salt, it has to be kidney and the form is urine. Water, urea, uric acid and sodium chloride, it is skin in the form of sweat. Carbon dioxide and water vapor through lungs in the form of exhaled air. Did you get it correctly? Yes. Then the next one. Why fecal matter is not an excretory product? Not an excretory product. We have discussed this over and over again. What is the reason? Because fecal matter is the undigested product of the digestive system. So therefore it is not an excretory product. So fecal matter is the undigested product of digestion, not a product of metabolic activities of the body. Therefore, it is not an excretory product. So one thing you have to say, it is undigested product of digestion, and also you have to say it is not produced during metabolic activities. So that is the reason why it is not an excretory product. With that, we will move on to the next one. Extra question 15. A diagram of the human urinary system is given below. Label the parts. So here you can see the diagram. I am sure you know the parts of the urinary system. So you all can label it first. Then you can check with my answer. What is the first one? A. That is the blood vessel that supplies blood to the kidney. So it has to be the renal artery. Then B, those are the kidneys. kidneys. So here we can write it as kidneys because both are shown. Then we have C, dark color, again a blood vessel. So that has to be the renal vein. Renal vein. Renal vein. And then D. Here you can see the renal arteries are coming from this particular blood vessel. So that is the systemic artery. Then E is the blood vessel to which the renal vein joins. So it has to be the inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava. And F, the two vessels that bring urine from the kidneys to the bladder. So those are the ureters. And I told you G is the bladder. And after urine is stored in the bladder temporarily, it is excreted out through H. That is the urethra. Urethra. So those are the parts. The renal artery, the kidneys, then the renal vein, then here you can see the systemic artery, then the inferior vena cava, then the ureters F, bladder, and the urethra H. So those are the parts of the human urinary system. So I am sure you label them correctly. We will now move on to the next question. Extra question 16. Fill in the blanks. So this again, it's related to white blood cells. The blood components of blood. You know the corpuscles. There are 3 types. RBC, WBC and platelets. So here it's regarding white blood cells. They are of 2 types. Granulocytes and what is the other one? Non-granulocyte. So after that, if you divide granulocytes, there are 3 types. What are they? The neutrophils, eosinophils, and the basophils. And the non-granulocytes, what do we have? The monocyte and the lymphocyte. So I can say lymphocyte, monocyte. So those are the different types of white blood cells. With that, we look at the next question. What are the functions of white blood cells? So what are the functions of white blood cells? They protect our body from pathogenic microorganisms, and they do that by 2 processes. What are those? Phagocytosis and production of antibodies. So that is what we have to write here. Protect the body against pathogenic microorganisms by phagocytosis and antibody production. So is that answer correct? Yes. Protects the body against pathogenic microorganisms by phagocytosis and antibody production. With that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 17. What are platelets? What are platelets? In blood, there is the plasma and the cellular components, which are called the corpuscles. Under corpuscles, the cellular fragments present in blood is the platelet. So, when they ask you, what are platelets? We can say they are a type of corpuscles that are cellular fragments. Or we can say they are cellular fragments, and a type of corpuscle present in blood. The next one. Where are the platelets formed? I am sure you know all the platelets as well as all the corpuscles are formed in the bone marrow. So here, where are the platelets formed? In the bone marrow. The next part. How many platelets are there in the blood of a healthy person? Always they ask for healthy person. You all know when these different counts vary, that means a person has a certain disease. So, in a healthy person, how many platelets should be there? There should be platelets between 150,000 and 400,000 in 1 millimeter cube of blood. So, you have to write that as well. So, 150,000 to 400,000 in 1 millimeter cube of blood. That is the number of platelet or platelet count in a healthy person. With that, I will move on to the extra question 18. What are the functions of blood? What are the functions of blood? They transport materials. So, first one we can say transportation of materials. Transportation of materials. Transportation of materials. What else? It protects the body against pathogens. So, the next function is protects the body against pathogens. One more function. What is it? Maintenance of coordination and homeostasis. Maintenance of coordination and homeostasis. So, that is those are the functions of blood. Then we will look at the next part. Briefly explain the following terms. First one is pulmonary circulation. I am sure you can answer that. What is pulmonary circulation? Blood is pumped from the right ventricle. It is taken to the lungs where it gets oxygenated and it's brought back to the left atrium. So, that circulation is known as pulmonary circulation. So to give an explanation, we can say deoxygenated blood pumped by the right ventricle flows to the lungs gets oxygenated and is brought back to the left atrium. This circulation is known as the pulmonary circulation. Then what is the next one? The systemic circulation. What is systemic circulation? The blood being pumped to all the other organs of the body, or the blood flowing through all the other organs of the body. Circulation in which the blood flows through all parts of the body. Then what is the next one that we need to explain? Double circulation. What is double circulation? When the blood flows throughout the body in one cycle, it passes twice through the heart. That is why it's known as double circulation. So here we can say when blood is circulated once throughout the body, it flows through the heart twice. So that is why we call it a double circulation. I am sure you have written the answers correctly. With that, we will move on to the next question. Extra question 19. What is the heartbeat rate of a healthy person? Again, the heartbeat rate of a healthy person. What is it? 72 beats per minute. So, 72 beats per minute. Write the 3 stages of cardiac cycle. The 3 stages: the systole, diastole and intervening. The 3 stages of the cardiac cycle. They haven't asked us to explain, just to write down the 3 stages. So with that, the next question. Extra question 20. What is meant by systolic pressure and diastolic pressure? I am sure you know that the heart pumps blood with a high pressure so that the blood can be circulated throughout the body to the lower parts as well as the upper parts. So when the ventricles contract, that is the systole of the heart, what happens there? There is high pressure exerted in the arteries. So the pressure exerted in the arteries when blood is pumped by the ventricles is known as the systolic pressure. So, if I write that down, pressure exerted in the arteries when ventricles pump blood is known as systolic pressure. Then the diastolic pressure. When the heart is at rest, still there is a pressure in the arteries. So, pressure in arteries when the heart is at rest is known as diastolic pressure. The next question. What is the normal resting blood pressure of a healthy adult? So, always a healthy person has a certain range. The normal resting blood pressure. What is that? It is 120 by 80 millimeter mercury. This is the systolic and that is the diastolic pressure. What is the range? 110 to 120. Here it will be 70 to 80. But the normal resting blood pressure should be 120 by 80 millimeter mercury. Then the next question. Extra question 21. A diagram of the longitudinal section of the human heart is given below. Label the parts. So, I am sure you are very familiar with this diagram and you will be able to label the parts. So, can you all do it first? Yes, you can. So, after that you can listen to the discussion or check with my answers. So, here now I am going to label what is A, this part, it is the aorta. What is B? Going from the right ventricle to this side, it is the left pulmonary artery. Left pulmonary artery. Then what do we have here? The veins that bring the blood back. You can look at the arrows as well. So, those are the left pulmonary veins. Then what is this? It is the left atrium. Left atrium. Then E is this. Between the left atrium and the left ventricle, we have the bicuspid or the mitral valve. Bicuspid or mitral valve. I am writing both the names. You can just use one term, either bicuspid valve or mitral valve. Then these valves, that is shown as F, the valves that are present at the beginning of the arteries. Those are the semilunar valves. So, here we have the semilunar valves. Then what is G? It is the left ventricle. So, here it is the left ventricle. So did you all get those parts correct? Yes. So then I will label the parts which are labeled on this side. So what is this blood vessel? The blood vessel that brings blood from the upper part of the body. So that is the superior vena cava. So here it has to be the superior vena cava. Then what do we have here? M. Again, the right pulmonary artery that takes blood to the lungs. Right pulmonary artery. What are these? The pulmonary veins or the right pulmonary veins that bring blood back to the heart. Right pulmonary veins. So here you can see blood goes away from the arteries, comes back through the veins. Then K. This is the right atrium. Right atrium. What is J? Between the right atrium and the right ventricle, there is the tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve. Then here we have the vein that brings blood from the lower part of the body. Inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava. And finally, here you can say H, that is the right ventricle. So now we have labeled all the parts of the heart. So this is the longitudinal section and I am sure you got it correctly. That side is the left side and this side is the right side. And always when we label, we have to say whether they are the left ones or the right ones. For example, left pulmonary artery, right pulmonary artery. Like that, we have to mention the side as well. So these are the parts of the section, longitudinal section of a heart. I am sure you were able to label them correctly. Did you get it correct? Yes. So then, extra question 22. What is coronary thrombosis? So, coronary and thrombosis. What is coronary artery? The artery that supplies blood to the heart. And what is thrombosis? The poor blood supply or blood not supplied to certain organ due to a blood clot. So, if that happens in the coronary artery, we call it coronary thrombosis. So, here we can say blood supply to the heart is reduced due to a blood clot in the coronary artery. So that condition is known as coronary thrombosis. With that, I will move on to the next one. Extra question 23. What are the two main lymph vessels of the human body? Can you remember the two main lymph vessels? Yes, the thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct. So those are the two main vessels. The thoracic duct and the right lymphatic duct. Those are the two main lymph vessels of the human body. Then the next question. In what parts of the body do you find lymph nodes? You can remember there are lymph nodes around many parts of the body. What are those parts? Around the heart, liver, intestines. Then there is the neck region, neck, or you can say throat region, armpits. So these are some of the parts where you get the lymph nodes. So in what parts of the body do you find lymph nodes? If you write this, it's okay. Around the heart, liver, intestines, then neck or the throat region, and armpits. I am sure you were able to answer these questions. So with that, I will move on to the next one. Extra question 24. What causes hypertension? What are the causes of hypertension? One is the narrowing of blood vessels due to the deposit of cholesterol. What else? It can increase due to mental stress. It can increase due to obesity. And also it can increase due to your food habits. If you eat food that has more saturated fatty acid as well as salty food, those also can increase the pressure with which the blood is pumped. That is what we call as hypertension. So here if we write down the causes, so we can say consumption of food with saturated fatty acids and salt. Then there is mental stress. Mental stress. Another reason, obesity. And also deposit of LDL in blood vessels. These are different reasons or causes of hypertension. Consumption of food with saturated fatty acids as well as salt, then mental stress, obesity, deposit of LDL in blood vessels. What is this condition called? Atherosclerosis. Then the next question. How can you control hypertension? So you know the causes of hypertension. If you can prevent those, you can control hypertension. So what do we write here? Reduce consumption of food containing saturated fatty acids and salty food. Then to reduce mental stress, what can you do? Have a relaxed lifestyle. So or have lead a relaxed lifestyle with less mental stress. Then what is the next one? Obesity. How can you reduce obesity? By doing regular exercise and having a healthy lifestyle. So, regular exercise, and healthy lifestyle. Can you think of any other things that you need to control in order to control hypertension? Excessive consumption of alcohol as well as smoking. They also can increase hypertension. So, by reducing that or avoiding that, you can reduce or control hypertension. So, if I include that as well. I didn't mention the alcohol and smoking there, but that is also a reason for hypertension. So, avoid consumption of alcohol and smoking. So, those are methods of controlling hypertension. I will again go back to the previous question. So, here you can see what causes hypertension: consumption of food with saturated fatty acids and salt, mental stress, obesity, deposit of LDL in blood vessels, that is atherosclerosis. These are all due to normal lifestyle or your habits. At the same time, I didn't mention that before, there is another reason. Due to age or due to the physical condition, due to other diseases, if the elasticity of the wall of arteries decrease also, then there will be hypertension. So, I will include that as well. Decrease in elasticity of artery walls. That also leads to hypertension. So, the first few are due to our habits, but the last one, decrease in elasticity of artery walls, can occur due to age or the again physical disease condition. So, by controlling all these factors, you can control hypertension. So, these are the methods by which you can control hypertension. Reduce consumption of food containing saturated fatty acids as well as salty foods. Lead a relaxed lifestyle with less mental stress. Regular exercise and healthy lifestyle. Avoid consumption of alcohol as well as smoking, because you know the nicotine in cigarette smoke increases the heartbeat rate. So, due to that, the pressure will increase. So, with that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 25. What is coordination? What is coordination? The adaptation of the body according to the changes in the external as well as the internal environment. That is what we call as coordination. So, adaptation of the body according to changes in the external and internal environment. So, like changes like temperature or the humidity of the atmosphere, those are changes in the external environment. Whereas the water content or the glucose level or the internal body temperature, those are the changes in the internal environment. So, the body adapts itself and brings the body back to normal. That process is coordination. So, then if we look at the next question, what are the two different systems of the human body that are interconnected to carry out coordination? What are the systems? The nervous system and the endocrine system. Endocrine system. What are the names given for the coordination process carried out by the systems you mentioned in part 2 above? I am sure you know the two processes. What are they? Nervous system does the nervous coordination. And the endocrine system carries out the chemical or hormonal coordination. So, the two interconnected systems, nervous system and endocrine system, carry out nervous coordination and chemical or hormonal coordination. Is that correct? Yes. So, then we will move on to the next question. Extra question 26. What is the structural unit of nervous system? What is the structural unit of nervous system? It is the neuron, or we also can call it the nerve cell. Then the next one, write the three types of neurons present in the nervous system. The three types of neurons present in the nervous system. The sensory neuron, the motor neuron, and what is the other one? The inter or intermediate neuron. Interneuron. So, the structural unit of the nervous system is the neuron, and there are three types: the sensory neuron, the motor neuron, and the interneuron. With that, we will look at the next question. That is extra question 27. What is the functional unit of the nervous system? Now, what is the functional unit? When all these neurons function together, we get the reflex arc. That is the functional unit of the nervous system. Reflex arc that responds to the stimulus. So, the next one, what is a reflex arc? So, the question related to the previous answer. What is the reflex arc? When stimulus or information regarding the stimulus is brought from the receptor to the central nervous system, the central nervous system sends the information to the effector. That process is known as the reflex arc. Information regarding the stimulus is brought to the central nervous system and the impulse is sent to the effector to respond. So basically it is the process of responding to a stimulus. So here I have written the answer in more detail. So with that we will move on to the next question. Extra question 28. What are the three types of nerve cells involved in a reflex arc? So here again the three types of nerve cells, you know them, all three types: sensory neuron, motor neuron and the interneuron. Then the next one, write the process of reflex arc using arrows. So the process of reflex arc using arrows. So where does the reflex arc start? The receptors in the sensory organ. Or we can actually start with the stimuli received by the receptors in the sensory organs. This is given to the, or this is taken to the spinal cord, where you have the interneuron, that is done by the sensory neuron. Then what happens? From the spinal cord, information is given to the effector response. We can say the effector shows response. This information from the spinal cord to the effector is carried by the motor neuron. So write the process of reflex arc using arrows. Stimuli received by the receptors in the sensory organ, that is the beginning of the reflex arc. Then the sensory neuron takes the information to the spinal cord, where you get the interneurons, and from there the motor neuron takes the information to the effector that shows the response. So that is the process of reflex arc. What is this? This is the functional unit of the central nervous system. With that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 29. External view of the human brain is given below. Label the parts. So here you can see the different parts of the human brain. What is this large part? That is the cerebrum. That is A. Cerebrum. Then here we have this part. It is the cerebellum. And finally here we have the medulla oblongata. So those are the three main parts of the. With that, I will move on to the next one. Extra question 30. So the diagram given below shows the locations of endocrine glands in the human body. Label the parts. I am sure you know all the endocrine glands, so you can do it correctly. Right. So we will start off with the first one, that is A. What is that endocrine gland? It is the pituitary gland. Then what do we have here? The neck region. It is the thyroid. So I have told you, you can write it as thyroid or you can say thyroid gland. Then above the kidneys, that is C. Those are the adrenal glands. So we can say adrenal glands. Then what is D? Part of the digestive system as well. It is the pancreas. E, what is E? It is the kidney. Then we have F. It is present in females, the ovaries. And G is the testis, that is present in males. Testis. So those are the endocrine glands present in our body. I am sure you would have done it correctly. There is no way you can confuse these endocrine glands because you know the different parts of the body where you get the endocrine glands. So with that, I will move on to the next one. Extra question 31. What is homeostasis? What is homeostasis? Maintaining the balance of the internal environment of human body. So that is homeostasis. Maintenance of the balance of the internal environment by regulating different factors. So that is homeostasis. Then what are the factors of the internal environment that must be regulated? What are the factors? The body temperature, blood glucose level and the water content of the blood. So here body temperature, then we have to say blood glucose level, and the water content of blood plasma. Then the next one. Write how the hormones involved in the regulatory process that occurs when blood glucose level is less than normal. So blood glucose level is less than normal. Then what happens? The pancreas produces glucagon. And glucagon stimulates the liver to convert glycogen to glucose. Thereby, the blood glucose level will be increased. So, that is what you have to write here. So, if we write the answer for that question, blood glucose level decreases, then we can say pancreas secretes glucagon. This stimulates the liver to convert glycogen to glucose. Then the blood glucose level is increased to normal. So that is what happens. The pancreas secretes glucagon. There you can see it's glucagon, that is the hormone that makes the liver to convert glycogen to glucose. Don't confuse these two, glucagon and glycogen. Glycogen is the carbohydrate, glucagon is the hormone that stimulates the liver to convert glycogen to glucose. I am sure you were able to write this answer as well. So with that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 31. What is homeostasis? It is the process by which a constant internal environment is maintained. So that is what you have to write here. Maintenance of a constant internal environment. Then the next one. What are the factors of the internal environment that must be regulated in order to maintain a constant internal environment? What should the body regulate? The body temperature, then the blood glucose level, and what else? Blood glucose level, and what else? The water balance. So those are the factors that need to be controlled in order to maintain a constant internal environment. Then if we look at the next question, write how the hormones involved in the regulatory process that occurs when blood glucose level is less than normal. What happens there? The pancreas secretes glucagon, and glucagon stimulates the liver to convert glycogen to glucose so that the blood glucose level can be brought to normal. So here the blood glucose level is less than normal. So what happens? Pancreas secretes glucagon. This stimulates the liver to convert glycogen to glucose. Then the blood glucose level is brought to normal. So that is the hormone, how it regulates it. The pancreas secretes glucagon. This stimulates the liver to convert glycogen to glucose. So here students, you can remember what glucagon is the hormone, glycogen is the carbohydrate that stores in human body. Then the blood glucose level is brought to normal. So that is the process that involves the hormone, that is glucagon. So I am sure you were able to write the answer correctly. Then with that, I will move on to the next question. Extra question 32. What is meant by homeothermy? Homeo, same. So the body of the organism has to have a constant temperature. So the maintaining the constant body temperature irrespective of the changes in the external environment or environmental temperature. That is what we call as homeothermy. Maintaining constant body temperature irrespective of the fluctuations in the environment temperature. So that is what we call as homeothermy. Write another term used for the homeothermic animals. A very simple question. You all know that they are known as warm-blooded animals. Warm-blooded animals. So then, what is the next question? Write the two groups of vertebrates that belong to the above type. You all know the two groups. What are they? The aves and the mammals, or birds and mammals. So here we can say aves or birds, and here we can say mammalia, or you can say mammals. So those are the two groups that are warm-blooded animals. I am sure you were able to answer all these questions. With that, I will move on to the next one. Extra question 33. What is the normal body temperature and temperature range of a healthy person? What is the normal body temperature? The normal temperature or normal body temperature should be 37 degrees Celsius. And the temperature range is between 36 degrees Celsius and 37.5 degrees Celsius. So the normal body temperature has to be 37 degrees Celsius and the temperature range has to be between 36 degrees Celsius and 37.5 degrees Celsius. Then the next one. Where is the thermoregulatory center present in a person? Where is it? You all know in the brain there is the hypothalamus. That is where you get the thermoregulatory center in a person. So, hypothalamus of the brain. Then the next one. Write the process that occur within the human body to prevent the increase of body temperature when temperature of the environment increases. So, what happens there? The blood capillaries dilate so that there is enough blood supply to the skin. At the same time, what happens? The sweat glands produce a lot of sweat. So, when the sweat evaporates off, it absorbs the heat from the body. Thereby, the body temperature will be regulated. So, that is what you have to write here. So, here body to prevent the increase of body temperature. So, here if we write the answer, we can say blood vessels of the skin dilate, at the same time sweat glands produce more sweat and the sweat evaporates, absorbing the heat from the body. Therefore, the body temperature is maintained. So, that is what happens when the body temperature rises due to rise in environment temperature. Blood vessels of the skin dilate, sweat glands produce more sweat, the sweat evaporates, absorbing the heat from the body. Therefore, the body temperature is maintained. So, I am sure you were able to answer all those. Then, shall we move on to the next question? Extra question 34. What is the hormone involved in the regulation of water when the water level of blood drops? What is the hormone? It is the antidiuretic hormone, ADH, or antidiuresis hormone. So, here I will write it as ADH. Write the name of the gland that secretes the hormone you mentioned above. What is the gland that produces ADH? It is the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland. And the next one. In what part of the kidney does this regulation take place and how? In what part of the kidney? The descending limb and the ascending limb of the nephrons of the kidney. That is where the selective reabsorption takes place. So that is what you have to write here. So in what part of the kidney? So that is the nephrons of the kidney. So how does this take place? More water is reabsorbed during selective reabsorption in the descending limb of the nephron. So this is how more water is reabsorbed when the amount of water in blood decreases. So then the blood content will be back to normal. So that is the process that takes place in the kidney due to ADH hormone, antidiuretic or antidiuresis hormone secreted by the pituitary gland. So with that, we will move on to the next question, extra question 35. What is the function of the hormone adrenaline? What does this do? This prepares your body for an emergency situation. Prepares the body for an emergency situation. Then the next question. What part of the autonomic nervous system functions in a manner similar to what you mentioned above? I am sure you know the answer. What part of the autonomic nervous system? The sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system. So both the adrenaline as well as the sympathetic nervous system prepares our body for a fight or flight situation. That is an emergency situation. So here you can even write it as fight or flight situation. Fight or flight situation. That is also correct. Either emergency situation or fight or flight situation. With that, I will move on to the last question. Extra question 36. What is the function of the autonomic nervous system? What is it? Autonomic nervous system controls the involuntarily controlled organs of the body. So that is what you have to write here. Controls the involuntarily controlled organs of the body. So that is the function of the autonomic nervous system. Then the next one. What are the coordinating centers of the autonomic nervous system? What are the coordinating centers? One is the hypothalamus, the other one is the medulla oblongata. So here we have the hypothalamus and medulla oblongata. Those are the two coordinating centers of the autonomic nervous system. Then what do we have? The third part of the question. How do the two parts of the autonomous nervous system affect the following? So here a table is given to you. You have to fill the table. So what are the two parts of the autonomous nervous system? The sympathetic nervous system, nervous system, I will write it as NS, and the parasympathetic nervous system. So always the sympathetic nervous system prepares your body for an emergency, whereas the parasympathetic nervous system brings it back to normal. So size of the pupil of the eye. Sympathetic increases it. So the parasympathetic decreases it. Heart rate. Again, heart rate is increased by the sympathetic nervous system. Why? In order to supply more blood, pump more blood to the parts of the body so the body can function in an emergency situation. Then what is done by the parasympathetic? Heartbeat is decreased. The rate of heartbeat is decreased. Then what happens to the aeration of the lungs? Again, that is increased by the sympathetic nervous system and decreased by the parasympathetic nervous system when the body comes back to normal. So those are the questions that you needed to answer. So with that, students, I have come to the end of discussion of Unit 6, the processes or the biological processes of the human body. Under that, we discussed different processes, the process of digestion, the process of respiration, process of excretion, process of blood circulation, and finally, coordination and homeostasis. And with that, there were 6 systems that were involved. The digestive system, respiratory system, urinary system, as well as the lungs and skin that do excretion process, then the blood circulatory system as well as the lymphatic system, and also the 2 systems that involve in coordination, the nervous system and endocrine system. So basically there are 7 systems involved with the 5 different processes. So I am sure now you have a very good understanding of how the different systems of our body work in order to maintain the health of our body. So what should we do? We should be careful that we lead a healthy lifestyle, eat a balanced diet, and to prevent diseases to these systems, because they are all very, very important. And with that, what should you do? You have to study all the systems properly, understand them. If that is not clear, listen to the discussion again, read your textbook, and once you know the lesson clearly, then answer as many questions as possible. So that will make you competent to answer any type of question given for your examination.